Om Shri Sai Ram. We'll start today's session with three Omkars. Om. 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 Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my prayerful salutations at Bhagwan's lotus feet. Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan mukti. This famous stanza from the composition of Sri Adi Shankara highlights the importance of satsang in helping us overcome our delusions and attachments and realize our true identity. Today, on this wonderful Sunday evening, Swami has blessed us with opportunity to gather around for a satsang and immerse ourselves in the glory of his story. Respected elders and dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you to this 42nd edition of Online Samarpan. Our speaker for today is Brother Y. Sriranganatha Raju. Brother Ranganath Raju is an alumnus of Bhagwan's University, wherein he joined for his BCom honors program. And thereafter, he went on to do his MA in economics and masters in business administration. Brother Ranganath Raju is a talented person and an all-rounder in true sense, for he has written and presented nearly 412 dramas in the divine presence. And Swami, he didn't address Brother Ranganath Raju by his name. He called him a Kavi and has blessed him with the opportunity to speak in the divine presence on more than 60 occasions. Brother Ranganath Raju is a very sought-after speaker, and he has been actively spreading Swami's message through more than 2,000 talks, which he has delivered till date across India and abroad. On the professional front, Brother currently runs his company Sanatana Analytics and Recruitment Services Private Limited with his team of more than 80 members who are engaged into consultancy, analytics, recruitment services, etc. Prior to this, Brother was working with the TVS Group for close to a decade, wherein he held important positions such as the chief economist of the TVS Group and executive assistant to the TVS Group chairman, Mr. Venu Srinivasan. Prior to that, during the initial stages of his career, he was an equity analyst at Amba Research. To top it all, Brother has also won the prestigious award of the most promising economist for the year 2015 and plays pivotal role in several core group committees formed by the Indian automobile industry body, such as Siam ERG, Policy Group of Vahan, and Auto Policy Group, to name a few. Without further ado, I would request Brother Ranganath Raju to take over and take us through his memory lane and immerse us in the treasure trove of his wonderful experiences. Thank you, Sai Ram.
इद्द सनंदादि सिद्ध संसेवितुनि शांत विग्रहुनि वात्सल्य गुणुनि कमनीय लोकमंगलदायकुनि शिवुनि विश्ववंदुनि जगत् विनुतेष्ट गुह्यक साध्य यक्षो रक्षनाथ कुबेर संसेवितुनि दुर्वार बलुनि उचित तपोयोग विद्यानुति सत्य साईश्वर नेनु मृक्यदन् यज्ञेश विश्वंभराच्युत शिवनमंगल नमधेय लोकस्वरूप आपन्न भक्ति जनार्ति विकंडन दीक्षु लोकाधार तीर्थपाद विश्वोर्भवस्थिति विलय कारणभूत संततानंद शश्वत विलास विनुत मंदार गुणहार वेदशील प्रणतवत्सल पद्माक्ष परम पुरुष परुडै ईश्वरुडै महामहिमुडै प्रादुर्भवस्थान संहरण क्रीडनुडै त्रिशक्तियुतुडै अंतर्गत ज्योतियै परमेष्टि प्रमुखामरादि पुलकुन भाविंपराकुंड दुस्तर मार्गमुन तेजरिल्लु हरिकिन तत्वार्थनै मृक्यदन्. Offering myself at the lotus feet of the Lord. Sai Ram to one and all. Before I begin this talk, I would just like to make a submission. Rather, it is a reminder to me. This is not a talk with an objective to instill devotion or to spread the glory of the Lord. This is not to spread his message. This is also not about instilling faith in someone else, but this is a reminder to me. This is an opportunity for me to relive those moments that were lived with the Lord. This is an opportunity for me to go back to his presence and relive that joy. And in this process, if the listener gets benefited, in this process, if the faith gets instilled, it is between the Lord and the listener. I am here on a very selfish reason. I pray that the Lord allows me to live through those moments that he allowed us to have. Now we can talk about various aspects of Swami and students. But I would like to take this traditional approach of the 9 part of devotion, the 9-fold of devotion. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, we all know it. But just a different take. This is not the usual definition of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, but something that we have seen, that what I have experienced or what I have seen. Shravanam. Shravanam is to hear the glory of the Lord, and it is also to know how keenly he listens. It was one of those early darshans, in fact, early morning darshans, early darshans in my student days, 3rd or 4th day of my student days. I was sitting in the 3rd block where Swami had just finished his darshan. He just passed by. In my mind, I was talking, I was rather shouting, but that was in my mind. I was telling, those were the days when I did not know that Swami was Swami. For me, Swami was a great personality because he had a Benz. He had good amount of followers. So I was kind of talking in my head. I was telling him that if you are God, give me Pada Namaskar. I was telling him in Telugu, Pada Namaskaram. It was in my head. Not a word heard out, but it was just, I was repeating that sentence, Pada Namaskaram, Pada Namaskaram. And he passed by. He takes 2-3 steps ahead, turns back suddenly and looks at me and says, Endukra Pada Namaskaram. Enduko? I was so shocked, literally petrified. This was the personality who was actually conversing with my thoughts. I was just looking at him, and the way he asked me, birthday na? Marriage day na? I started crying. I said, no, Swami, nothing, Swami, nothing. I said, then Endu Pada Namaskaram enduku? I wanted to tell him, Swami, I never asked you. Even before I could open, he looked at me, Endu Pada Namaskaram? Appa nunchi adugutunnavu. From then on, you have been asking me continuously, why Pada Namaskaram? I started crying. Then he came to me, then he said, very, very good boy, created Vibhuti, gave me, and he said, now take Pada Namaskar. He took Pada Namaskar. But that was the time when I realized that this is not a normal personality. You know, he would listen to every conversation that we have. But still somewhere the doubt was lingering in my mind. And 2 days passed by. I was coming to darshan along with my friend, classmates. So we were coming to darshan in the groups. And one of the classmates who was, those were the days when we would look up to our classmates and feel that some of them have been blessed by Lord. So they are, for us at that point of time in 11th class, they're like angels, just who flew down to earth to live with the mortals like us. So I used to look at my classmate with awe. With literally, whenever he come to him, because I heard that Swami spoke to him earlier for many days. In fact, Swami granted him multiple interviews. Swami granted him various gifts. So whenever he would come to me, I would literally fold my hands and say, oh, and I would call out his name and say, brother, and all. So he would tell me, come on, yeah, don't do all that. And one day, the similar conversation was happening. Then he tapped me and said, hey, Raju, you know what? Swami forgot about me. Why? Why are you saying that? You know, those were the days in my 8th, 9th, 10th. He used to speak to me almost 8th and 9th. He used to speak to me every day. But now he stopped speaking to me. I think he forgot about me. And he keeps speaking. And then he took out one more name. So he keeps speaking to that fellow, you know. He forgot me. I said, oh, Baba forgets also? And yeah, he said, yeah, look at me. He hasn't spoken to me for last like 2 years now. He forgot. I thought maybe, yeah, maybe he would have forgotten. Maybe, you know, he's getting old and all the thoughts were running in my head. And then we came to darshan. We sat. I was right behind him. He was in the first line. I was just behind him. We were waiting for Swami to come for darshan. Swami by then had come for darshan. We were waiting for Swami to come out of the interview room. So Swami came out of the interview room. He comes straight to Anil Kumar sir, who was sitting there right in the 3rd block. And then he looks at this boy. He looks at the professor who was sitting there, and he looks at Anil Kumar and says, hey, Anil Kumar. Look at that fellow. He's telling in Telugu. Chuduvani. Look at that fellow. Which fellow? Anil Kumar is looking at everybody. Then some says that Nellore fellow. Nellore, he called. This boy comes from Nellore. So this boy literally got up on his knees and he was folding his hands and looking at Swami. And then he is looking at me. Swami is looking at me and he tells Anil Kumar, says, he tells everybody that I have forgotten. And that fellow is pointing to me and says, he thinks that I am getting old. Emira, who looks at the boy and says, this boy, he came to me at the age of 6. And then I gave him that Tetra Pak. He said, fruity Tetra Pak. Instead of sipping it, he pressed it so hard that entire thing bursted out. And then Swami started narrating incident after incident. At the age of 7, what he did, 8, what he did, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I was literally looking at him with awe, and this boy was crying. And then he said, I gave you a watch in 8th class on that particular day, after the particular conversation. Where is that? The boy says, Swami, I kind of lost it. So Swami said, hey, come here. And then Swami called him near. Then waves his hand. He creates a beautiful chain. He puts it around his neck. And then he makes a statement. Then he pats him beautifully. He looks at me. He looks at that boy. And then he makes a statement. Says, you may forget Swami. But Swami, Swami will never ever forget. Remember this. Tell Anil Kumar. Tell everybody. This Swami will never forget anyone. All that you have to say is, Swami, I belong to you. And he says, even in dream, kalalo cheppina kuda, even in dream, if you tell that I belong to you, I will never forsake you. And then Anil Kumar started reciting this poem, which I would just recollect. Adavinandunna, Akashavunna, Pattanamnanunna, Pallenunna, Guttamidanunna, Nattetanunna, Madini Sai Marabadapudu. Sai will never forget. Wherever you may be, you might be up in the sky or down in the oceans, you might be in the villages, or you might be in deepest jungles, but he would never forsake you, because once you said, I belong to you, you are his. Shravanam. And then Kirtanam. We know that Kirtanam is singing the glory of the Lord, but Swami told us this version of Kirtanam. Swami personally told us this version of Kirtanam. So, Kirtanam, then he was recollecting. It was such a beautiful narration by the Lord. He was recollecting his trip to Badri and to Himalayas. He said, no, I had gone to Shivananda Shastram, and after the discourse, Shivananda prayed that Swami should bless the devotees with a bhajan. So, but then I wanted Karunyananda. Swami says, I wanted Karunyananda to take over the bhajan. And Swami started laughing. And we knew that something beautiful was about to come. And he controlled his laughter and said, but Karunyananda was very forgetful. he would not recollect things easily. He would, especially he is forgetful about bhajans. So Swami tells Karanyananda, you take over the bhajan. Which bhajan? Swami just nods the divine smile. He just nods. And then Swami exits. Rather, Swami takes the backstage and is sitting in the throne. Now, it is up to the Karanyananda, whose mic is thrust in front of him. He's look at the audience. He doesn't know which bhajan to start. And then he says, Krishna Rama Govinda, Rama Krishna Govinda, entire crowd, thousands of people. Krishna Rama Govinda, Rama Krishna Govinda. Second line. Krishna Rama Krishna Govinda, Krishna Rama Govinda, Rama Krishna Govinda, Krishna Rama Govinda. After that, Kanyan is looking blank. He's look at Swami, look on the stage. Then there at the end of the stage, he sees Rasagulla. He looks at Rasagulla Govinda, Gulab Jam Govinda, entire Rasagulla Govinda, Gulab Jam Govinda. 2 times repeat, Rasagulla Govinda. Imagine Swami narrating this. And third line now, here he takes over the first line. Krishna Rama Govinda, Rama Krishna Govinda. Now he has to come to the third line. He's blank. That is when. So, just to save everybody from the embarrassment, one of the devotees, a very elderly devotee, got up. She's that Bobili Rani, Swami would say. She got up in the crowd and she wanted to just go back. And other side, Kasturi also got up. They wanted to go back behind stage, backstage, and say that, Karananda, please control yourself. Both of them got up simultaneously. So he looks at both of them and says, Kasturi Govinda, Bilirani Govinda, everybody Kasturi Govinda. So in Andhra, in Telugu traditions, when you lift the dead body, they shout, Govinda, Govinda, and then you lift the dead body. It means that person is dead. So especially when this lady's name came up, Govinda, Govinda. And she was so furious. She comes back to Swami and she starts crying, Swami, in your presence, lakhs of these people, thousands of these people shouted, Govinda, on my name, I'm going to pass away. Please, Swami, save me. And Swami is not able to control his laughter. Swami said, stop the bhajan. Bhajan stopped. Swami patted her and then Swami said, nothing will happen. Don't worry, I am there. And then he made this statement. He said, see, look at that. Look at that. She was standing right. They were standing right in my presence. And yet, for that moment, that fear of death was overpowering her faith and that devotion. And said, Adi Maya. And that is the beauty of the Lord. It is, I remember once we were distributing clothes. Swami was, I'm sorry, I should not be saying that we were distributing. We were kind of holding the clothes and Swami is distributing. So the cloth on top was, kind of got folded. And Swami looked at the folding. Swami so furious. And I was right behind that boy who was actually getting blasted. I was shivering. I said, oh my God, Swami, please stop it. And then Swami took that cloth. He just corrected it and then passed this cloth to the other person. The devotee, old devotee, he came up. He looked at Swami and it was lesser than an instant. It was nanosecond. He just took that bundle, turned around, and when he looked at that devotee, that anger, that frustration, that disappointment just vanished. So, that eyes lit up and he was smiling. I was shocked. That Natana Sutradhari, in a split second, from that frustration, where did that frustration go? Where did that anger go? And where did this happiness come? I just look at him and he looks at me and winks like this. He says, Natana. Like that Natana of divinity of Maya and Amaya. And then he went on to say, when you hold on to Swami's name, nothing that is inauspicious or nothing that will shake your faith will ever follow you. Sai namame vi pratipanna bhagyam bhujivana adharam bhujivitam. Sai ramude prakata daivam bhajim pasivim pasrikaram. Sai Krishnude rakshaka rajam samsara chitnak pasatpatam. Sai Shivude sarvabandhu balagugam sakala yoga phalam sammatam. This is a poem written by Swami where he says, Sai namame nika pratipanna bhagyam. He says, the greatest gift that you can ever have is that Sai Namam, Pratipanna Bhagyam, Jivanadharam Jivitam. It is the Adhara for your Jivitam. Sai Ramude, Prakata Daivam, Bhajim Pasivim Pasrikaram. This Sai Rama is that Sri Ramachandra himself, Prakata Daivam, Bhajim Pasivim Pasrikaram. Even if you talk about him, even if you salute him once, it is auspicious to you. Sai Krishnude Niku Rakshaka Rajam, the greatest armor that you can ever get is that Nama called Sai. Samsara Kshitanarpa Satkar. It is the only antidote to the fires of, to the flames of samsara. Sai Shivude Sarvabandhu Balagambo. This Sai Shiva alone is your greatest and best relative and benefactor. Hold on to him. That is Kirtanam. And Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam, we think about Smarana. Think about, relive the name of the Lord with chanting, with recitation. No, recitation brings to me a very nice memory. Those were the days in 2005, 4, 5, and 6, where Swami would ask us almost on a daily basis program, literally on a daily basis. And there were times where, Swami would, there was one Ugadi where Swami was coming and then he asked me, "Aim program?" I said, "Swami, aim program?" Like I was telling, I was about to say no program, then said, "No program. Program will put no program, I'll go back." That was basically he was giving us the feel that I am coming only for watching this program. That was the kind of ask that Swami was putting us through. And we would get lesser than hour. In fact, at times it was lesser than half an hour. And that was one such day. And we would usually be prepared with a broad plan in case Swami comes and asks, you will be the speaker, I be this, and that is the kind of preparation we had. So one day, similarly, Swami had come in that new prayas. I was first of all taken aback by the beauty of that prayas. So the prayer stopped right in front of me. Some said, like this. He raised the eyebrows. I knelt on my knees. And that cool breeze from the prayers, I forgot about Swami. I forgot about the program, and I was just enjoying the breeze of, hey, I looked at Swami, said, "Aim program, bro." I said, "Swami," and then he brought me back to that reality. He said, the way he said was like, "Aim program, bro." I said, "Swami, it is there, Swami, program is there." Swami said, "Ah." Then from there he looked at Warden. Wardens are also very beautifully nodded, confidence. And the car moved away. While just moving, he says, "I'll take this turn and come. You be ready. You go there and be ready." He would have lesser than 3 minutes. He would finish that round and then he would come to the center stage. And I look at my classmate. My classmate looks like he gives that omniscient look. I know, yeah, don't worry. So we would get up, but we had that broad outlook that, you say this. So the story is that I'm an antagonist. He's a protagonist. I am the grandfather. He's also my friend. Both of our grandsons are leaving to abroad. So I kind of tell that why he should be leaving to foreign lands, while my friend should be dissuading me, saying that, India is so great. So this, that land of prosperity, land of yoga, land of bhoga, and land of tyaga, you cannot let your grandson get away from this value system. That is the kind of conversation you're supposed to have. And then Swami comes and sits on chain. We got up. Swami, mics were given to us. So he looks at me. I look at him and says, I start the conversation. First, he looks at me and says, that first line of the poem, he looks at everybody confidently. We were on the either side of the stage. Imagine that Swami sitting in the center, and then on the corridor. On the either side of the stage, I was on the ladies' side and he was on the gents' side. He was looking at the crowd. He was quite tall, 6 foot fellow, well built, and had a very deep bass voice. He looks at the entire crowd. Crowd was full, hall was full, and then he holds the mic and they recite the first line. There was a thunderous applause. That bass voice, the setting, and Swami was sitting like an emperor. And next to him was the VC. Swami looks at him and says, "How good are my boys?" And She's also just Swami, beautiful Swami, chala. So Swami, beautiful. And then he looks at me. The conversation was that I should be standing there, he should be standing, and we should be kind of reciting our poems. And he starts walking towards ladies' side. I was a little taken aback. That was not in the script. So since he's walking, even I have to cross. So I come to the other side. So he goes to the other side. He holds the mic again, looks at everybody with that confidence. And again, he recites the first line. Again, thunderous applause. Swami, a little, there is that element of doubt in the Lord's look. Swami looked at him. And that, again, this brother of mine, he finishes the second line, again starts walking towards Jen's side. Again, I have to cross. I was again taken aback. I was not able to understand what is actually the scheme of things. So he comes to the Jen's side. Again, I have to go back to ladies' side. Again, we go. And again, he looks at everybody. And again, recite the first line. And recite the first line. Again, but this time people clapped, but the volume was low. Confusion was, it was apparent on many faces. And this brother of mine looks at me again. Again, he starts walking towards ladies' side. This is the first time we are crossing. I come to Jen's side. And again, he recites the first line. The same line he repeats. Everybody, it was quite apparent. This time, no claps, silence, deafening silence. People went fall. Swami, till then, who had that pride in his look, he started looking up. And I knew my friend of mine, classmate of mine, looked at me. And in that look, it was very clear that the brother forgot the entire poem, except that firstly, he doesn't remember anything. So I knew the poem by heart, but I cannot recite because I'm an antagonist and he's a protagonist. And our entire drama would take a hit. Would just go Ori. So this time again, he starts walking. Now, I did not want to cross Swami fifth time. So I just stood. I said, come what may. Whatever. Swami, you do whatever. So I just stood. So he came up to the middle and he realized that I'm not coming to other side. So he just stood there. He held the mic and he looked at everybody. And again, he recited, even before he could recite that first line from behind. Swami says, Sangeeta Sahitya Shastri. The way he was standing was right in the center, and right behind him was Swami. The audience cannot make out. Right behind him was Swami. And he was holding the mic, and then Swami says, Sangeeta Sahitya Shastriya Vijilan. Sangeeta Sahitya Shastriya Vijilan. Dishaktina Sagina Divyabu. Dishaktina Sagina Divyabu. Prachina Vila Paladolan. Entire line by line. Swami prompts, and this boy repeats. Swami, and again there was thunderous applause. Now it kind of everything. It appeared as if there was it was a dramatic element that he was trying to make up, and then people are clapping for every other dialogue of his, and the program went off by 12-25 minutes. And we go to Swami. So VC we were very scared of our authorities because any mistake, we would not get an opportunity again to redo program. So Swami called both of us like that. Swami, both of us went near. We were on either side, Swami's head, and we were on either side. And Swami gave me and that Vibhuti. And while giving me Vibhuti and that says, if you forget once more, I'll kick you. And then this boy, that is his prompting. That he looks at Swami and Swami is putting Vibhuti in his palm and says, Swami, in life it is always like that, Swami. You are actually the real prompter. We just stand there and we speak. No, you are the prompter. You are the speaker, Swami. We just stand there. We're the black box from which sound emanates. So, good. That is all okay. It's very good, but next time you don't forget. Yes, Swami, and we went back. Vishnu Smaranam. Pada Sevanam. Pada Sevanam is you worship the feet of the Lord. I mean, you get an opportunity to worship the feet of the Lord, and that was one such coveted opportunity which you would always look up in Trai Vrindavan. You get that opportunity of doing Path Seva to Swami. can go up to Swami's knees. You get that opportunity. So when Swami had taken us to Chennai, we were taking turns, and that day I was waiting for my opportunity, and that day was my turn. And I had that coveted, blessed opportunity, and I was doing that Path Seva. And I had done this minute earlier, but it was a very, very special occasion, very few boys. And then Swami was immersively talking about certain things. It was such a blissful experience. And then suddenly a fear stuck into my head that now this opportunity is not going to last long. It will end maybe any time. Somehow I could sense that people outside, they're trying to get some VIPs inside. So anytime it appeared like Swami is waiting for someone. So I knew anytime this 15-20 minutes, it might end. And that fear of losing this opportunity, I wanted to have a memorabilia of this great opportunity. I forgot the Lord. I forgot the Path Seva that I was doing. I wanted to pull out a strand of hair from his dhoti. So one hand I was doing Path Seva, other hand I was trying, the right hand I was trying to pull out the strand from Swami's dhoti. And it has to be done very, because it's a very intricate and skillful job, because you have to pull out just enough so that people cannot make out. Swami especially should not make, and it should not appear, it should not damage the dhoti also too much. Just little as a memorable. And it appeared like Swami was, it appeared as if I was doing quite a skillful job. And it was almost, the strand was almost about to come out. Just about to. And then suddenly Swami started shaking moving his toes. It's a symbol that stop the Path Seva. I did not stop because I wanted to finish this job. Some said, hey, chalra. It was quite apparent that someone is going to come and you have to stop. So he just stopped. I thought, oh God, I missed this opportunity. No, it was just one little twig, and that would have come out. The strand would have come out. And then comes from behind, I could make out. We were trying to get up. So because of this because of that setting, one of my dear classmates, he sneaked in such a way that at the corner, there is the Swami's chair, and he sneaked in next to Swami's chair on the assumption that Swami would move out and then he can get up and come. Now, when those two VIPs, one is a VIP at a minister at a state level, other minister at central level, both of them great devotees, very well-known devotees. Now, Swami wanted us to go out. All of us could get up, but this boy cannot get up because he squeezed in such a manner that he's until Swami's chair moves, he can't get up. So he got stuck. He's looking at Swami and Swami was in no mood to move his chair. He was sitting like that emperor, looking at that king, looking at those ministers, and the devotees came, the two of them. Now this boy cannot get up. He just sat in there. I wanted to signal him saying that, hey, at least you finish the job of getting the stand for me. So I was telling him with my eyes, and he said, no, let's see. So we went out. This boy continued to sit. Now, some conversations have happened between those two, between Swami and those two devotees. And we were outside the room. We were waiting. It was quite apparent that Swami did not, especially the devotees did not, they were kind of probably sharing some sensitive things. They did not want us to be around. So we went out. And all that I could make out was there is some bit of confusion. One, the secretary of that particular central ministry is coming in, going out, coming in, he's taking maps, saying, they're talking in Hindi, yeah, like that. And all this. There's some confusion, which it was very apparent. And minutes later, Swami comes out. And while coming out, he looks at me and so beautiful. So we were standing, we have folded palms, folded hands, and Swami comes at me beautiful with his eyes. He indicates like this. It was basically, I think, what was he indicating? Then I looked down, right on my shirt was that strand of the robe, of that dhoti. Somehow it just came there. I said, wow. I was thrilled. And Swami indicated like that, and he passed. He went into his room. And there in the corner, I saw my classmate, my friend, dear friend. He was like a statue. Like that, as if he saw something, he heard something, he was a witness to something, he was privy to something which shocked him to the core. was like that. And Swami went, everybody went. I wanted to ask him as to why, what shocked him so much. So I went there, I shook him. He got up, I asked him, what happened? I said, no, later. He went and drank water. 2 days later, then he narrates this. That minister, the central minister, comes to Swami and says, Swami, we are trying to do a project in this particular state of mine, Madhya Pradesh. So we want to do this water project. No, there is no. And Swami, they were trying to speak in Hindi. Swami apparently was not able to understand in something. Kya hai, kya? And this boy who happens to be a very good Hindi speaker, no, he's kind of translating. He felt that, yeah, that is the reason why Swami made him sit there, that he is the translator, and he was feeling that he is prepared. He is kind of educating Swami in Hindi. That was a thought that was running in the head. And 2 sentences get over. And basically, he could get a sense that they were trying to do a water project, and then they bring the map. And they're showing to Swami that, Swami, there is no lake nearby, nothing, no water reservoir. They were not able to do this project. And Swami has to guide. And then suddenly Swami switches to fluent Hindi. So this boy, he become redundant. So just look at Swami, and Swami took off in beautiful Hindi. Swami says, no, it is there. Swami, it is not there. Because they would have done good amount of survey. They cannot come unprepared. Swami says, no, it is there. That lake, the map was there right in front. Swami he's not even looking at it. It is there like this. The map is there. He puts his finger here. He's looking at the minister. The minister looks at the secretary who is behind, looks at it. They were shocked. There's a water body right under Swami's finger. I mean, so that is when the secretary ran out. He wanted to get one more map to make sure that probably the minister, but it is there in that map also. This was not there earlier. I don't know whether it was there. They missed, but it was like that Vishnu Maya, after they realized, after in Mahabharata time, Swami told us, when they realized that Krishna was apparently alive when he moved to Dwaraka with his entire Mathura populace, Hastinapura sends an emissary to Mathura population. And then Hastinapura, the emissary goes and inquires people saying, how did you come from Mathura to Dwaraka overnight? They say, no, we walked. We just walked. We walked and we reached by early morning. Said, do you know it takes 10 to 12 days to walk from Mathura to from Mathura to Dwaraka? I said, no, we just walked and we came to Vrunda. It was something like that. Vishnu Maya. Was it there? Not there, don't know. But when Swami showed, yes, it was there. Prior to that, was it there? Swami alone knows. They go to that place, they survey it. Yes, that water body is there. It's as if people have been speaking about the water body. It hasn't been existing. And this boy, then he told me, I was shaken. This Lord who could just like that create things, that Maya, who could spun Maya like that, had time to think about that little strand of his dhoti on my shirt. And when the Lord could create lakes and probably this entire universe with a snap of his finger, what is it for him to create that strand of hair on my shirt? And Vandanam, the next one. You go to the Lord, you prostrate to the Lord in sheer awe. We're doing Swami had given us the opportunity, blessed us with an opportunity to do drama for sports meet. We kind of restarted the tradition. And that drama was Krishna Raibaram drama. Swami came to auditorium to watch the drama. And we wanted Swami to title it. The Duryodhana, the character Duryodhana in that drama, he did it so well. Brother Giridhar was so good in his acting skills that Swami was enamored. And then Swami was apparently lost in the drama. You're just looking at the stage like that. And from the other side, Warden and the Krishna's character from this side, me, 3 of us came to Swami and we wanted to ask Swami the title of this program. And Swami is clutching he's clutching the 2 sides of his throne, the arms of his throne, and he was literally clutching it, clenching it like that. And you could make out Swami is breathing very heavily. He was lost. He was looking at the Duryodhana. The Duryodhana was still in that pose. He's looking at the Duryodhana and he's clenching his fist. His jaw is also tightening. His breath is kind of speeding up. It was very evident that Swami is very upset and disturbed. And he was very angry. For about what we don't know. So I just ventured out, and because Warden indicated, saying that followed. So I said, Swami, and he looks at Krishna, the boy who played as Krishna. Durmarkud, Robert. Durmarkud. He's a wicked fellow. I'm translating in English. Wicked fellow. not a trace of morality. How many times have I gone and begged him? I have begged him. I have begged his mother. I have begged his father. I have begged his uncles. Yet none of them changed. Durmarkud. Who? Which Durma? We were shivering by Lord. So for Duryodhana, that is when for Duryodhana, Durmarkud. That is when we realize that Lord was in that point of time of Krishna. He became, he went to that point and he's reliving all those moments where he went and begged literally Duryodhana to avoid the war. And now he's taking out that anger and the frustration. And we did not, that moment was so overpowering that we forgot to ask the title of the drama. And we were just doing that literally, Vandanam Shamin, looking at him and folded arms. He looks at all of us and says, he looks at us and says, I have been what Chustunanda, Chustunanda. I remember Krishna and me, we were practicing some dialogues under a street light. And light in the practice Chustunanda. From then on, from that times of Duryodhana, I have been watching you. Chustunanda. He looked at all of us. Chustune untan. I will keep watching that eternal witness. What are we to describing? Chettu kommala pulu puttinchu chetto mee manambuna bhakti natakulu. This is Swami's beautiful poem where he says, it is with that hand with which he blossoms those flowers on the tree branches. It is with that same hand he blossoms faith in your heart. Just like the way those seeds that come out of that flower, in the same way the seeds of devotion, of faith would start blossoming even in your heart. Just like the way life comes into that lifeless seed, that pining for the Lord, I make sure that it comes in your heart. Just like that unseen tree grows massive from that small tiny seed, the desire for mukti with my touch grows like that massive tree in your heart. Dina dinambuna aburiddhi vachunatlu kadaku iyadi falasiddhi ganchunatlu ella velala sai unchunatlu deevanalo pondu satya sai toda. Like the way you pine for water, like that way I make you pine for the Lord. Be assured that this is my blessing if you are with and be with me. That to that Lord, what is that we can give? Archanam. No, offering. You offer something to the Lord. And Swami had blessed me with that opportunity of continuing the dramatics. We had this opportunity of helping devotees across Telugu states, especially for their Partiyatras. So I would go around the districts, and when they come to Partiyatra, I get an opportunity to do drama and train the devotees there. One such drama we had done for Srikakulam. So this was a standard where I had learned through multiple experiences that the drama is not about the script. It is not about the actors. It is not about the settings. It is about that feeling with which you offer to the Lord. That is most important. And when we're training these devotees, the practice starts like 90 days ahead, 120 days ahead. So one such drama was in Srikakulam district. I had gone there 90 days ahead. I told them one incident where one particular district, right from young kids of 4 or 5 years and up to 70-year people, they were doing circumambulation around Swami's mandir for 90 days. And the drama was so well that Swami got the mic and announced saying that I have never seen such a drama in Prashanthi Nilayam. So in 2008 for Adilabad drama. Now, as telling them that instance, this is how you can actually win the Lord's grace, the Lord's heart through that sheer devotion and dedication. And there was one particular very important role of Max Muller, and this was played by a doctor, an MBBS doctor. This brother, being an MBBS doctor, his IQ levels were quite high, and his knowledge was quite superior. And he would not listen to, and he would insert those English words in between those Telugu, and it's in very subtle indication saying that I would only listen to those people who can actually speak fluent English, none else. So literally, it was getting very tough for that local brother who was directing it. He would not pay attention to him. So I have to go from Bangalore again to that Srikakulam, tell him only then he would pay little attention. it was becoming quite irksome, and there was at one point we wanted to send him out. But somehow it was the Lord who pulled him through. The drama came out quite well. In the last scene, where Max Muller, in the drama, Max Muller looks at the Lord and says, Lord, if there is one more birth, let me be born as an Indian. This was the dialogue. And you're supposed to be standing and saying. So he's looking at Swami and says, Lord, if there is one more in Telugu, Lord, if there is one more birth, give me an opportunity to be born as an Indian. As he says, he slumps on the ground. He falls on the ground. And as he falls, both his knees hit the slab, Kadapa slab, so third block. And I was watching so keenly from behind, as the knees hit the ground, Swami erupts in a like that. Swami starts crying. Swami erupted in emotion. It was such a perfect timing. I knew that there was something. And Swami, inconsolably, Swami is crying. Swami called him. Swami is very emotional. Swami waved his hand, created a very thick chain and put it around his neck and he tapped it like this and kept tapping his knees and was telling me from there to center of the third block to end of the third block, I was standing from there. Swami, I have seen it. And he's telling these boys, patting on his chin, I have seen it. Nobody might have seen, but I have seen it. What was actually Swami conveying? I was at loss. But it was very, very powerful and emotional bonding between the Lord and his devotee. And the boy gets onto the stage. Instead of enacting, he dashes right across, comes and hugs me and starts saying, Allah. I had to literally pull him out and say, boy, brother, the drama is going on. The scene is still, it's not ended. Go back, enact your role. We can cry later. But Swami is very pleased. Drama gets over. Swami goes back. And even while going, Swami told me, Chusan running. I was thinking Swami is referring to the drama. So Swami goes back. And then this brother is unconsolable. He comes and he hugs me and says, Anna, oh my God, only just Swami was. What happened? What did Swami say? And he said, Anna, you remember that day, 90 days back, you came and gave that talk. And you said, no, only with the feeling, you would offer that feeling, that bhava. All my colleagues, everybody did whatever they could. But I wanted to offer whatever, the best that I could, that archana. I wanted to do that archana to the Lord with my sweat and blood. He said, the mandir in Srikakulam was quite big. It was as big as a hostel. Such huge mandir. And this boy would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he would circumambulate that entire mandir 108 times on his knees. And he pulled up his trousers. I was shocked. I was lost of words. My eyes were moist because there is nothing like skin or flesh. It was just so badly bruised. Because imagine someone of 80 kgs doing 108 circumambulations on your knees for 90 days. And I knew that is the reason why the Lord just kept him in the drama. And when he said, I am watching, that is when it kind of became very apparent. None might be watching. None of us might be ever knowing what are the struggles, what are the fights, what are those battles that we are going through. But is that Lord who has been watching since eternity, he will be watching us. All that we need to do is just give it up to him. And dasyam, that servitude. This is a very personal experience of a classmate of mine. He never wanted me to tell anyone, but the fate would have it. Somehow, I do not know how it happens, but I end up. In fact, there was one such incident of my classmate. He said, very fantastic incident where he literally saw Krishna in Vrindavan grounds, and he said, don't tell this to anyone. And that evening, next day we go to Parthi. I went to speech unprepared. Swami calls me and says, speak. What do I speak? I wanted to start. And this boy was sitting right in front. I narrated this entire incident, which he said, don't tell anyone. In the similar fashion, this experience also, he said, don't tell anyone. But now I have narrated this earlier because of similar circumstances. This brother, this classmate of mine, he comes from Chennai. Dasyam, that servitude. To what extent the Lord would go to. He comes from Chennai, and there is that traditional, the God alone knows how long that bus has been running, but it starts at 7 o'clock in the Chennai and it reaches 6 o'clock morning in Parthi. This bus, he got this APSRTC bus. The bus also has been, I think it's quite old. It is as aged as this tradition. So the brother of ours, he booked a seat somewhere in the back. He got a seat. He got into the bus, and he saw in the first row, 95-year-old woman. She was sitting there. She is also coming to Parthi. And he felt very strange that this lady is traveling alone without any help or support. But he thought, anyway, whatever, that is between Lord and the devotee. He went and sat back. Swami had not spoken to him much. In fact, he did not speak to him earlier at all. And then this brother sat in his seat, slipped into sleep, and that is his last semester. And he was, the whole vacation just got over. He's returning to hostel, and he was kind of reliving those moments where Swami gave darshan, where Swami spoke to many boys, and he was thinking, Swami, this is the last semester. Please bless me with an opportunity of just talk to me once. It will be very kind on you. And around 12:30 in the night, 12:31 in the night, he gets up. There's a foul smell in the bus. And outside the bus, there's a quarrel. There was some quarrel that is happening. Two people are fighting. And he looks out and he notices that the driver and someone related to the bus management, they are fighting. It was quite apparent. And the bus was stinking. It was the foul smell. So he did not know where the smell is coming from. He gets up, and then right in the first row, he notices that this old lady, because of her age, she's not able to move. So she passed her stools, she urinated in that seat. And that is causing this stench. Now, all the ladies around her, they were kind of abusing her, they were kind of making faces. It was quite insulting. And this lady, because whatever age she might be, but because her modesty is at stake. And this brother of ours he felt so touched. He did not think twice, because outside the driver is fighting that you get this bus cleaned because bus belongs to management. Management says you are the driver, so you clean. We are not going to touch that shit. So that conversation, nobody was ready to clean, and her modesty was at stake. So he just walks up to her, picks her up in his arms, and is getting down. He decided that he will wash. He mentally was thinking, Swami, she's like my grandmother. I will clean her up. But as he's approaching, and this lady was crying, as he's approaching the bathrooms, the thought still, one thought passes the mind, how nice it would be if there is a lady who can help her out, because she may not like it. I don't have a reservation, but she may not like it. And as the thought finishes, from the bathroom comes an ayah with a bucket and a broom. She looks at him and says, you give that lady to me. So she just takes that lady and says, it's as if this ayah is ready, as if she just cleaned up the bathroom. It looked like she just finished cleaning the bathroom. She's coming out, and she ended up seeing this. So this boy did not take it seriously. He just passed the lady, old lady, to that ayah. He thought, Swami, very nice the way you timed it. So they go inside. This boy goes up to the bus. He cleans the shit. He cleans the bus, and he did not speak a word. And the ayah cleaned her up, brought out the lady, and brother of ours takes the lady back to the seat and places her. Without speaking single word, he just goes back to his seat and slips back to sleep. Next day, someone woke him up. He opened his eyes. And when he stood up, there is that sheer awe in everybody, and everybody literally doing that Sairam Namaskaram. And he did not pay much attention. The driver, without asking, he stopped the bus right in front of the hostel, because he realized that this boy is a student. So he says, sir, great, Sairam, sir, you all are Swami students. He thought, fine, nice. He walked back to hostel. By the time it was already 6, Swami would come out anytime. So he quickly got ready, ran to Mandir. He was sitting in the first few lines. Swami comes. And then Swami had not spoken earlier to this boy. Apparently, Swami does not know where he comes from. Swami comes to Anil Kumar sir and Bhagya sir and says, Swami looks at Anil Kumar, says, Anil Kumar, do you know where do these boys come from? And I say, Swami, from different places, because he is quite aware of the students. Swami, different places. And Swami points out with this boy and says, this boy, the first time he's getting the recognition of Swami, now he's picked up, he just looked at Swami, and Swami says, this boy, he comes from Madanapalli, yeah? Madanapalli? They said, then professor said, Swami, no, he's from Chennai. He said, Madanapalli. And the boy is confused. And third time Swami says, but last night I saw him near Madanapalli. And then he looks at him and gives that smile. That is when it struck him deeply. Oh my God, that Aya, that lady who came out of that bathroom was none other than Swami. It was so overwhelming that the Lord of the universe came down to help his devotee he's not bothered whether the task is menial or not. But a selfless thought, noble thought has crossed the mind of his devotee, and he just came down. And when the realization strikes him, he looks at Swami with awe. He's opening his mouth and says, come here. Calls him and creates vibhuti and says, he's putting vibhuti in his palm and says, weren't you thinking last night that it would be very nice, Swami, if someone comes? Why someone? He indicates, like, I only care. He gives vibhuti and says, go. Good service. Good boy. Good boy. Where are we to serve? What are we to serve? There's another beautiful poem. Swami says, Adavi Pakshulaki epadu Aharam ichchanu Mrigajatiki epadu Meta pette. Vanacharaduలకు భోజనం ఎప్పుడు ఇప్పించి చెట్లకు ఎప్పుడు నీళ్లు చెదిపోసి. Who is the one who is feeding those birds in the forest? Who is the one who is feeding those numerous and countless animals in the deep jungles? Who is the one who is feeding those little ants on the trees? Who is the one who is feeding those bumblebees? Who is the one who is feeding that fetus? It is that same Lord. He shall take care of you. And Sakhyam, close friendship with the Lord. I had a classmate of mine who he got into some of his strange habits for whatever reason. Even during student days, it is just that there's nothing, nothing bad or nothing wrong, but just that he would sneak out of hostel and he would speak to his friends outside the outside the hostel telephone booth without anyone noticing it. So he would speak to all his friends. This went on for quite some time. And he would come and share with me that, I've done this here, but I have this kind of guilt within me. And I would tell him, see, when you have that guilt, why do you do this? Just stop it, no. But he would continue. And the bill on the PCO, on the bill owner, the PCO was, kind of getting geometrically going up. He was quite worried. One day the owner came and said, boss, you pay me, otherwise I'm going to report to your warden. He was very scared. And somehow he did something. But he could not, he tried to do something, he tried to do something, but he could not pay back. So he wrote a huge long letter. I was the only one who knew this, what was happening. He wrote a huge long letter to Swami about what all things that he had done. He said, Swami, you are my best friend, Swami. Please save me out of this. And it was apparent he could kind of feel that the owner either had gone and reported to warden, or it's just that he would get caught anytime. So Swami read that entire letter. And then he says, friend, I'm your friend. And literally there were like tears in Swami's eyes. He told me the contents of the letter, this classmate of mine. So one day later, Swami calls him in the middle of darshan and creates a ring and gives him and tells a beautiful ring. He puts it on his finger and says, go and tell everybody that Swami has given me the costliest ring. Said, yes, Swami went inside. No, go and tell everyone. So literally this boy had to go and tell all the VIPs that Swami gave me costliest ring, Swami gave me costliest ring. So he went around like that telling, and then he went and sang back in his seat. So he said, I'm your friend, best friend. That expression he gave, and miraculously the dues got paid. That's a different story, but actually I have something else to narrate. So he's out of it. And then he's finished his studies. We finished our second PG. I went on to do the third PG, that is after my MA Economics, continued MBA. So that's my literally third PG and fourth, we would call it third year of PG, fourth year of PG. So this brother of mine went away. He's out in the out wide world. And one day I saw him after quite some months. By then there was some blasts in Bombay, and things have happened. So he came back. He was like literally standing there in front of Kulwant Hall gate. And as I was entering, his very close friend of mine said, hey, come on, why did you? And he started crying. He said, have come to meet my friend here. Please, can I? I said, what are you asking me? And he came inside, and then he started narrating. he was traveling in one of those Mumbai trains, and he had got into every bad habit that you can imagine. He felt as if he just came out of a containment zone. He plunged himself into the world without any discrimination. Name it, and he did it. And he was literally gone, and he's thinking that he's the coolest guy around. That's the exact word he used. And one day he was traveling in one of those trains in Bombay, and just 2-3 feet near him, he sees a person. That person was so attractive. I mean, he was very different. He had a vibhuti mark. He looked very familiar. Something was strange about him. He just wanted to follow him. So the person in one particular station, he got down. It looked as if he was getting into another compartment. So this brother wanted to just follow him. He also got down, went to the other compartment. And even prior, when he was standing in the earlier compartment, there was one of his known person was actually holding the railing, and he had a beautiful watch on his wrist. He was looking at the watch and was thinking, "Oh my God, why can't I also should have that watch one day, you know?" And those thoughts were running in his head. Now, this person follows him to the other compartment, and he could not find him. He's not able to find him there. And minutes later, there is a massive blast, and he's out. I mean, he's just unconscious. When he gets back to his senses, he finds that hand which was holding that railing was actually lying somewhere near him with that watch. And he realized that he had actually just scraped to other compartment where he was standing was the blast, and he somehow got out of the blast. He was so traumatized that he was actually being brought back by his parents to his native place. Now he lands in Hyderabad. Now he from Hyderabad is coming back to his native place. And he gets into the bus, which is going to his native place. He's sitting in the first chair. Imagine a person who's just traumatized with that bomb blast. He just escaped. And he's sitting in that first row. And that same person whom he had seen in that compartment gets into the bus. And he walks to the behind portion of the bus. So this boy gets, he is so shocked, he's like so surprised. The bus is moving, and it is somewhere in the night, it is speeding up. So he got up, moved, dashed to the last portion of the bus. He is not able to find, and then suddenly there was huge noise, a huge jerk. This boy flies and falls, and it was massive impact. And when he comes back to senses, he realizes that the bus had met with a massive accident. The driver died on the spot. The front seat people, 3 people, the people who he was also he should have been one of them. But those 2 have been severely injured, and had he been sitting in that middle portion, he would not have been alive. And now he realized that, Lord, it was literally like that Final Destination movie. The death was chasing him. And he comes to Parthi, and now he's telling me, he says, "I want to meet my friend here. I forgot him for long. I don't know what to do." I told you, I took that. I did not know what to say, but now it appears a little foolish. I said, "Come." I sneaked him into the student line. We were sitting in the 3rd block, and Swami comes. Swami comes for darshan. Swami comes straight. He looks at me. He comes to me. He stops. He looks at this boy, creates vibhuti, and gives it to one more person, and is telling me, "You may forget me. Nannunu marchipochura. Prapanchangni kuda marchipochu. You may forget me. You may forget the world. You may forget all the promises that you made to me, all the things that you said to me. But I will never forget you. I will never forsake you, because I am your best friend." And he looks at him and says, "Avuna?" Says, that boy, he is not able to speak. He looks at Swami, says, just nodding, and both had the profound conversation without speaking a word. And Swami looks at all of us and says, "Swami alone is your best friend," and walks away. That Sakyam, the best friend that we can have. And last, Atma Nivedan, offering ourselves to the Lord. I was in the introduction, brothers were kind to introduce about me, saying that I had been with some of very influential people and quite good corporate jobs. So one day I got dropped by a chartered flight in Bangalore airport. I wanted to come to Parthi. So, and then I had a car waiting. I just come out of the airport. The car takes me straight to Parthi. We were coming to Parthi. We were supposed to reach, So for some reason I got delayed. So I called up my friend in Patti and said, boss, brother, why don't you arrange some food for me? Get some, pack some 4 chapatis. I'm a little foodie. I've become a little fat because I like eating. So I asked him to pack 4 chapatis and 5 chapatis. So he packed. He was waiting, and somehow there was some delay. We reached instead of 9:30, we reached around 10:30 like that. And this brother was kindly, patiently waiting. So when we reached Patti, we reached Ganesh gate, and then brother of mine hands over that packet and says, "Hey Raju, I've been waiting for so long. Yeah, I felt hungry. I had 1 chapati." I said, how can he have here? I mean, I've been traveling all the way from Bombay to Patti, and now without having any consideration, how could you have? You should at least told me that. Those are thoughts that are running in my head. And then he looks at me and says, I'm sorry, here. And then he goes away. I was actually very disturbed that I felt as if he literally stole without my permission. And as this conversation was going on between us, there is a beggar who kind of came through the Chitravati road, came across the car, and she comes to me and says, she stretching both hands says, sir, you give me, sir, give me, sir. I was so disturbed that I just dumped that entire packet because there is already 1 chapati taken by my friend, and now other side is this old lady begging and nagging me. I just dumped the entire packet in her palm. She said, I'm going to take it. In that process, 1 chapati fell down. So she had 3 chapatis in her hand, and she was not eating. She started walking into the Chitravati lane. I had a disturbed mindset. I was thinking that I will actually catch her red-handed selling these chapatis. So I followed her silently, and she goes like 10 to 20 feet into 10 to 15 feet into the Chitravati road, takes a right turn. And when she takes the turn, she notices, I noticed that in that lane, there were 3 beggars who were sleeping. So this lady goes up to them and she wakes them and says, hey, get up. And she distributed those 3 chapatis. She saw me sent her these chapatis. She distributed those 3 chapatis. And I realized the generosity of her heart. I was a little guilty. I caught her and I said, Amma, what will you have? She looked at me. She turned, me? Nena. She was telling me that, Nena, tintana. She held my hand. She got me onto the Chitravati road. From there, we were able to see right in front, and we were in front of that Ganesh gate, and she points me to that gate and says, I am living in front of God's gate. I am a beggar in front of God's gate. I get to beg from the devotees of the Lord. I get to see God himself. And when I am able to see God, when I am able to see his devotees, should I not live his teachings at least one day? I am able to sacrifice this one day so that 3 more can be happy. I have an opportunity to live those moments, to live the teachings of the Lord. What more do I need? And at that instant, I was really confused as to who the beggar was. Was it me with all those paraphernalia, or was it that old lady who had nothing? Who was actually the beggar? All my possessions paled into insignificance in front of her generosity and devotion. And in fact, when I think back, that is what happens to a person, to a beggar who offers herself to the Lord. A beggar is transformed to a yogi. And it is like that. In fact, later when I think back, I realize actually I've been a beggar and I am a beggar. I just get to stand in front of the gate of my Lord and I beg for him. Is with that pining, with that begging, I bring this talk to a close with a beautiful poem which Swami says, oh Lord, what can we give you? Ishanaku, Magidi Danine Arpintumu, O Mahitamurti, Araya Veremi Tatumi, Archanakunenu, Anjali Gatintumu, Andukovayani. What can we offer to you, O Lord? I give back the heart you gave me. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I am at loss of words because in a little more than an hour, brother has weaved such a beautiful necklace around the 9 forms of bhakti and taken us through the varied experiences that Swami has blessed him with. Swami has named him a Kavi very aptly because the eloquence and the uh, vivid description with which he has narrated each and every incident, uh, we could actually visualize things happening in front of us. Uh, the funny incident of Swami Karunyananda not knowing what to sing, it was such a funny incident, and when brother was narrating it, we couldn't stop laughing. Just imagine how it would be when Swami was narrating it. Uh, Key insight, key message that we get from each of the experience is that when Swami says that he's there in us, around us, above us, below us, he means it. He is there. He is an eternal witness to each and everything that we do. It is we who have to be conscious about his presence and live accordingly. And it is he who always prompts us from within as our conscience, because he has all our goodwill, that he wants us to be good, and he is our best and only friend. And it is our duty to sync ourselves to his voice through within and act accordingly. And once we develop that one-to-one connection and are in sync with him, he can do anything for us, like he created that water body, or he made the Mathura Vasis reach Dwarka overnight. So he will also help us pass through this ocean of birth and death. I would like to thank brother from the bottom of my heart to uh, make us go through such wonderful experiences and make us enjoy so much. And I would like to thank Swami for organizing this session and blessing us with this satsang. Now, we would like to take a few questions which have come up from the viewers. So, the first question is how to intensify our bhakti for Swami so that we can have him in our lives forever.
Silent brother, I would attempt answering from whatever little I know. So one of my classmates had a similar query, and he had asked this to Swami himself. He said, Swami, how do we develop bhakti in such a way that every minute is filled with your presence? The Swami gave a very insightful direction to him. He said, every day, keep a limited time, 1 minute, maybe 10 minutes, depending on your capability. And during that time, whatever that comes to you, treat it as God, treat it as Swami. And he said, slowly and steadily, you will start realizing. In fact, Swami is given an example. He said, even if you look at a clock, say that it is Swami. Even if you look at a lock, say that it is, feel that it is Swami. And slowly and steadily, you begin to realize that Swami is all pervasive. And every minute kind of gets filled with Swami. So this is the answer that I have.
Thank you. The next question is, as you have spent so many years at Swami's lotus feet, what are Swami's expectations from his devotees?
To one of the outgoing batches, Swami had given an interview, and he said, I have given you free education. I have given you so much of love. What is it that you're going to give me in return? And then those were the days when the first super special hospital got built, and the water project was in, it is slowly uncovering itself. And the boy said, Swami, what after this? Swami, we will build temple for you. Swami said, wrong answer. And one boy said, Swami, we will build hospitals for you. Swami said, wrong answer. The other one said, Swami, we will build water projects for you. Swami said, wrong answer. Then what is right answer? So they were looking at Swami, and they said, Swami, they were at loss. And one of them ventured out saying, Swami, please, why don't you only answer us? Why don't you tell us? Swami said, even before Swami could say, one excited brother said, Swami, we'll transform the world for you. Swami said, hey, transforming the world is the responsibility of the avatar. And then he gave this direction. He gave this answer. He said, I have only one expectation from you. Transform yourself. Be like that street light which emits light. If the Lord wants you to emit the light and inspire people, he will make sure that you are noticed and people will follow you. But your job is to be that street light and allow him to glow through you. That is all that we need. I think our prime responsibility, as the Lord says, is to realize that we are actually not different from him. And I think once we achieve this, we would have met his expectations.
The next question is, what should we do to surrender to Swami permanently?
I feel very good that because these were direct questions that are asked to Swami, and it is his grace that such questions would come up. One of my classmates in one of the very private sessions, he asked this question to Swami. He said he was about to speak about surrender. And Swami said, surrender. Surrender? Surrender and enti, sir. I said, Swami, what is surrender, sir? And this boy said, Swami, giving everything to God is surrender. Swami said, hey, wrong answer. In surrender, there is no giving and taking, sir. And then Swami gave this answer. He said, accepting whatever happens as good for me, as God's prasadam, as Swami's prasadam, is true surrender. And then he went on to explain 2 sentences later. He made a very profound statement. He said, one who surrenders fully, he would not have any difficulties. Come what may, he would not have any difficulties. And just to take it forward, one of the devotees had asked, and one of our students only had asked Swami, if it is true, what about Prahalada? He surrendered himself to you completely. And Swami said, what about Prahalada? He had to go to so much of trials and tribulations. Swami said, how do you know that Prahalada suffered? Yeah, right, exactly. How do we know that Prahalada suffered? All that we infer is there was a lion standing in front of Prahalada and he must have been scared. There was an elephant that was walking up to him, he must have been scared. And Swami went on to explain, so he did not know anything. He was in bliss. He was in deep joy. He did not know that there was a lion. He did not know that there is a fire. He did not know that there are serpents around him. All that he knew was it was only Narayana, Narayana. Wherever he looked, it was only Narayana. So nothing could affect him. The one who surrenders will not have any difficulties. And true surrender is the definition given by the Lord.
The next question is, how do we handle disappointments and anger?
Disappointments and anger. One of my classmates had written a letter to Swami saying that, Swami, you disappointed me. So Swami looked at that letter. He did not answer anything, he just folded it. And he gave that deep glance in dry and said, this means when did I disappoint you? That kind of when. And he got up and Swami, you promised that that you will come to my rescue in exams. But I ended up, instead of getting O grade, I got B grade. So Swami did not answer it then. But during that discourse, I mean, now when we think back, it becomes very apparent that Swami is actually referring to that incident. Swami said, your expectations come from your attachment, and your attachment comes from the desire, and the desire comes from identification of the Dehabhiman. And he says, just like that, one small egg of a mosquito which can breed countless mosquitoes, so is also this tiny little seed of that Dehabhimana, that identification with that body, that actually is the root for so many illnesses. And he also went on to make a very profound statement. He said, the illness at the mind, illness at the body is because of this primary reason. And he looked at that boy and said, with God, there is no disappointment, sir. It is only your expectations. They were not right. And where does that expectation come from? I just explained. And anger, I think, Swami, I think there is no, I am sorry to be saying this, but there is no question. In fact, when one of the dramas, because I remember this so vividly, because I written this dialogue in which Kasturi gets up and says, the character Kasturi gets up and says, there is no question that Swami has not answered. There is no challenge that Swami has not taken. There is no tussle that Swami has not resolved. There is no dilemma that Swami has not given direction to. All that is encompassed in Sai literature. All that we do is just spend some time. And Swami, I remember when this dialogue was going on, Swami said, Aunu, like this, he was saying, Aunu. And Swami gave answers, beautiful, right from very operational, mundane, transactional way of getting our anger to the deep reasons. We very clearly says, when you get anger, you go open, walk away from the situation, open a tap, and then abuse the tap, abuse the water which is going on, or then little higher, hold your breath and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And Swami says, little one more step higher. Imagine the person to be the one who is actually making you angry. Imagine him to be God, him to be one more form of the God. And little more higher. When your love is deep and pure, you will not be angry at all. I mean, there are that steps of advice that Swami has given to each one of us. We just need to search and follow it. That's all.
Given the uncertain times that we all are living in currently, the younger generation are confused about the future. So how would Swami motivate the students during such situations?
I was just mentioning about this interview, right, which Swami had given to outgoing students, in that there is one particular conversation which I omitted. So one of the boys said, Swami, if we are not going to transform this world, who will transform? Which Swami said, it is the responsibility of Avatar. Then the immediate question that boy posed, Swami, but there is so much of negativity, so much of uncertainty, so much of suffering all around. And then Swami narrated this incident of story of Yudhishthira and Duryodhana. In fact, Swami told this personally to us. He said, Krishna, I'm sure all of us know, Krishna calls Duryodhana and says, hey, Duryodhana, find out one good man in this entire Hastinapura. This fellow goes from dawn to dusk, comes back and says, Lord, everybody seems to have some negative problem or the other. And he calls Dharmaja and says, you go and find out one bad fellow. So Dharmaja goes around and says, he comes back and says, Lord, everybody seems to have at least one good quality or the other. I think if at all there is one bad fellow, it is me. On the contrary, Duryodhana says, if at all there is one good person in the entire Hastinapura, it must be only me. And then Swami went on to explain, he said, there is no wrong with Srishti. It is in your Drishti. But it takes time for us to realize that actually we project what we see. What is within us comes out. The uncertainty that we see in the world, the suffering that we see in the world. I very clearly remember there is a speech which was given just 2 days back by a renowned psychologist where she had some transcendental experience, and she says, the world is so beautiful. It is filled with beautiful hearts. It is full of happiness. And she is talking about the world right in the midst of a pandemic. And she being a doctor. Why? Because she has that vision. That her drishti corrected and the Srishti appeared to be peaceful and beautiful. I think uncertainty about younger generation, I don't know about younger generation. I think the uncertainty is in our minds. Younger generation are confused about future. I remember Swami, one of our seniors had told me a very beautiful incident. He was in 8th class and Swami had come to, he was in 6th or 7th class. Swami had come to primary school. They had set up the giant wheel. And This boy wanted, he was so kind of enthusiastic that Swami made him sit on the giant wheel, and the giant wheel was put on, the wheel started rotating. And when the wheel reached the top, the enthusiasm vanished and he got so scared, he petrified, he started shouting, Swami, I don't want. And the wheel came down, Swami said, stop, stop. And this boy jumped out and said, Swami, and you kind of disappointed me. All those things were running out of his mouth. And then Swami tapped and said, hey, what wrong can ever happen to you when I am right here? I think that was the message, not to that boy, just to all of us. When we have him amidst us, with us, what wrong can ever happen? Just look at those 2 episodes of Pandavas. Now, one episode of Pandavas where they had wealth. No, they had that massive Indraprastha palace where he had some of the most terrorized weapons, where he had a beautiful wife, amazing brothers, Dharmaja, and that Dharmaja goes for playing dice. This Swami told us he goes to play dice, but did not have Krishna. His reliance on the world vanished one after. He lost his wealth, he lost his power, he lost his influence. Till the end, he lost even the modesty of his wife because he relied on world. And when they sought to Krishna, it came. Now, go back 14 years later, same set of Pandavas, same set of Draupadi, no wealth, no kingdom, no influence, no connections. But yet, they could kill over those 65 lakh and 13 Akshonis because Krishna was with them. They chose Krishna over the world. And that time, they chose world over Krishna. They left Krishna and they went, here they went with Krishna, and then it made all the difference. I think what we need to do is to get that Krishna, to get the Rathasarathi in our own lives. I remember like one of our very senior devotees, he told Swami, I got a beautiful car, a very costly car. And he said, who is the driver? Swami said, who is the driver? He said, Swami, this driver, he's been trained in Delhi, done a lot of headhunting, and then finally found one of the best drivers in India. Swami said, very like a kid. He looked at that person and said, sir, I also want to be your driver. And he was shocked. He said, Swami, yes. Swami pointed to his heart and said, this is the car and I want to be its driver. Will you make me? I think that is all we need to do. We need to make him the driver of our heart. He will take care of the rest. Yes, brother. So this is the answer that I have.
Thank you. One last question that we will take for today is Namasmarana as the salvation in Kali Yuga. It is a means to salvation in Kali Yuga. Are there any direct inputs or story that you could draw upon in relation to your experiences since you have been in such a close proximity with Swami?
Namasmarana, absolutely. I think there is in no uncertain terms that recitation of the name of the Lord. I think is the most powerful weapon we have been bestowed with. No, one of my classmates, he was so enamored with Krishna that he would keep chanting Krishna, 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 and he wanted to, he wanted to have darshan of Krishna. And he finishes his reading Bhagavatam, and he was lost in the Krishna consciousness, that name of Krishna, Namasmarana, Krishna, Krishna going on his lips. So he comes out of Vrindavan library, he's walking to the hostel, the ground, empty ground, and he's already late, he's all alone, he's lost in the name of the name and thought of Krishna, he's walking, and he hears someone snapping a finger like this. That is usually the signal when Swami comes out. Now he's a bit confused, he turns around, he doesn't notice anyone, the ground is empty, and he takes two more steps, and hears, hey, the way Swami would call. Now he turns back, and right at that tree, that massive pupil tree, right next to that, there's that 12 feet Krishna standing. And he looks at Krishna and says, Krishna, Krishna, and he slumps to ground. As his knees hit the ground, there is no ground, there is no Rajmata building, there is no tree, there is no cricket pavilion. One side, it was all blue, and it was Krishna, Krishna. One side is Krishna's eye, Krishna's hand, Krishna's leg. It was all Krishna, Krishna alone. And he got up. When he got up, he was in hostel room. I happened to just enter the room. That I asked him, what happened? And this is the experience which he told me, don't tell anyone. So next day, Swami called us to Vrindavan. I narrated this entire incident, and it does not end there. There at the end of this incident, Swami asked me to stop, and then the mic was brought in. The second sentence of that discourse, Swami starts the discourse with a poem, and then second sentence says, that boy narrated just now that incident. I brought down, he says, I brought down the Krishna as a mark of his faith and that Namasmaran. I think what more you could get down, the Lord could get down Krishna himself for us. What will he not pull down for us? But provided we have that thought and name of the Lord. That is all we need to have.
Where else we'll get such a loving God who got Krishna himself down for us, who says that even if in your dream you tell that you are mine, I will never forsake you. All we need to do from our end is just hold on to him and remember that he's always there for us, come what may. I would once again thank Brother Sriranganatha Raju for accepting our invitation and giving us such a wonderful time. Thank you so much, brother. We will end with Samasta Loka 3 times and Om Shanti Shanti. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sai Ram. Thank you.
Jai Saram.